Yes, guys, welcome back to another week of the Weekly Insight. We're on week 26. I'm back. Apologies for missing last week, but I was on holiday. Just coming off holiday mode now, but we're back. We're back with another episode, and we're joined by Cryptoinsightuk UK.
Hey guys.
I'll show you today. All right. Right, okay. Let's just crack on with the news then. Right, okay. We're starting off with this, and I put this at the front because this is kind of what we've been discussing pretty much every week now in terms of like, well, let me tell you what the news is first. Obviously, Crypto.com adds Google Pay and Apple Pay to support Visa cards in Canada. What's good about this is that it helps your standard user get involved in crypto. It makes it easier for them to deposit, more adoption, etc., etc. We spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, in the fact that companies slash exchanges like this need to be making stuff easier for people to get involved. So if you can deposit into, take your fiat, put it onto an exchange through Apple Pay, we all know if you've got an iPhone anyway, all you have to do is double tap the lock screen, Face ID, boom, it's payment literally in a click of a button like that. So
Yeah.
pretty good, very good news, and just wanted to put it in there because it's Crypto.com, one of the biggest and well-known exchanges out there. So obviously it's only in Canada at the moment. Canada itself, obviously, pretty big country. So this is a
Yeah.
start, in my opinion, in terms of seeing stuff like this. And go on.
It's like attacking it from both sides of the spectrum, isn't it? Because last week or 2-3 weeks ago we were talking about how Starbucks were coming through to the NFT space and making it easier, obviously, for adoption to come through with NFTs, and then now this is Crypto.com, who are actually a crypto platform, making it easier for people to use it from the other end of the spectrum. So Starbucks are coming in and like bringing crypto into their space, and Crypto.com are coming in and bringing traditional finance into their space. So it's kind of like meeting halfway for both of Starbucks and Crypto.com, isn't it?
Yeah, spot on. Literally, it's good. Like I said, it's just good to see, like obviously we mentioned Starbucks a couple of weeks ago, like you said. This week it's Crypto.com. I just think week in, week out, I'm starting to see little stories. This is obviously a lot bigger than in terms of recent times. But don't be surprised to see another exchange doing similar things to like this, because it's in their best interest to do this as well. Because if they make it easier for like people our age, for example, who use Apple Pay every day, they're going to get more. They're more likelihood of depositing onto their exchange, trade on their exchange as well. So it's good. It's good. It's good for mass adoption. I think this particularly will be good for the next like full cycle that we experience within crypto, because people will just be able to deposit, like I said, at the click of a button. Whereas before, I remember when I first got involved in crypto, depositing onto Binance, for example, or Coinbase was a bit of a fast in comparison to Apple Pay, where you can just literally tap it. But very good regardless.
Yeah, exactly. And
Um,
like even the
cool.
payments options in general have come so far, even in the last like couple of years.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
when I first got into crypto, I think I was using like Bittrex and like exchanges like that. And I think Binance was coming like just started to come into the space as I was like involved, but no one really trusted it because it was like a I don't know, it
bit of
just
a new.
wasn't one that anyone really used.
Yeah,
Coinbase was about, but we didn't really use that because it didn't really offer any crypto. Um, so it was also though like depositing and withdrawing was like TradFi. It was like you deposit and your money wouldn't be in there for a few days, and when you withdrew, like withdrawing was almost like something that didn't really exist. Like you could withdraw, but it'd take like 3, 4, 5 days to come into your account, and you're like, oh god, like
is
is
it
that
where's it
happening?
gone?
Like how do you even do this? Yeah, and then now we've
Yeah,
got options to. Well, obviously, like sending it to like hardware wallets is a lot easier, more like everyone's competing with each other in terms of payments, which is exactly what you want in the space because that provides the best service because people have got to try and find the cheapest and the fastest way to make it easier for the end user, and that's what like brings us forward on the adoption curve. And now, like, if you want to cash out from like any of the major exchanges, it should be in your bank within like a few minutes, to be honest. And
that's
that's like such a progression. Even think, yeah, like when you first deposited, like
a
to
lot.
now, like what's the upgrade? Even in this in this bull run
Yeah,
specifically, it's been huge, hasn't it?
that's what I'm saying. Imagine what we're going to be experiencing like 2, 3 years down the line, when the market obviously would have played out by then. But it's going to be as easy as it is now to, I don't know, place a bet on a betting website, for example, or purchase anything on a normal website. It's going to be integrated in, I think, at that pace. So good
Yeah,
to
I think
see.
so. And like even being in Bali like makes me realize that a lot of people have got a lot of really good ideas. Some of them are even like created and they're just not rolling it out until more like speculation comes back into the market. So what people have probably already got waiting, sitting on the sidelines, and this is why the adoption curve like increases and so many users come onto the platform, is because as more people come on, like Metcalfe's law and Reed's law, like we talk about, as more people come on, more people build, and as more people build, it brings more people on, and like those people get connected with each other, and then that increases like the power and the size of the network, like in an exponential trend. And it's just like so apparent, like being out here with people who like do build on the blockchain like every day, different developers, different like VCs, everything that like the people you surround yourself with out here are all just sort of sitting waiting, with their either developing a product or have a project waiting just to roll out. And it's like, I wonder how many people around the world are sitting in that position right now.
Yeah, that's true. When you think about it like that, obviously you're just in Bali. Imagine what they're up to, obviously in the UK or even the other Asian islands and US. Like people have got ideas in the pipeline. They're just waiting for certain things, like whether it be legislation, etc., a bit more clarity in regards to that before they roll it out. And I'm sure once we get, obviously, like we're going to talk about here in terms of legislation, once we get that clarity, I think it'll be a bit of a snowball effect, like I keep saying. So everyone will trying to jump onto it and get in there, be the first movers in the market and get that first idea out there kind of thing. But we'll move on to this anyway, because this came out yesterday, I think it was. So EU will require Bitcoin wallet providers to KYC users in new landmark legislation. So this is what they need people to identify themselves, like their identity tagged to the Bitcoin wallet. Is that correct? I'm correct by saying that?
Yeah, that's what he's saying there, yeah.
And everyone's obviously kicking off about it because it defeats the whole point of it being decentralized, etc. Obviously, this guy has put like clowns, laughing faces, and all that kind of stuff. But what's your opinion on this? Because I've got a bit of a controversial opinion on it, because I know like the whole part of crypto, and I'm going to get a bit of stick for saying this, but I know crypto is about being decentralized and like having freedom to do X, Y, and Z. I understand that, but do people actually think they're the big boys or the people in charge, so to say, are going to let us become completely anonymous in terms of like sending transactions to each other? Because in my eyes, I know it sounds a bit weird, I know a lot of people know this is common knowledge, but if you don't have your user identity tagged to your Bitcoin wallet, which it is now, it just promotes a lot of like criminal activity, for example, like whether it be drug dealing, etc., whatever it is. They don't want that. It's giving them a platform to kind of make those transactions almost. So they're not going to make something like that mainstream to the world, in my opinion. And this is why, I've been saying in previous episodes or in a newsletter, whatever it is, that we need some sort of legislation in terms of like, maybe not this, maybe this was a bit too thingy, but this news hasn't surprised me at all, because I could see this coming months ago, because like I said, they don't want to give people who are going to be using the blockchain for incorrect reasons or criminal activity, like giving them access to send transactions so easily. What do you think about it? Obviously, I know it's a bit of a sensitive topic within the crypto space.
Yeah, but so this I think is from that bill that was like leaked. There was like, so the new EU bill's like been leaked, and I think this is from that. And what do I think to it? I think you're exactly right. I think that if we're going to get mainstream adoption, we need to know who owns what. And I know that everyone objects to power, control, like surveillance, all this sort of stuff, but we're surveyed like all the time with everything. And it's going to be no different if you want any kind of new currency. If you want it adopted, it's like you can keep it to be completely retail, but then you're not going to get the price appreciation, or you can let it be adopted and you're going to have to play by the rules. And if you want that to happen, if you want to make a lot of money, then you're going to have to play by the rules. And everyone's shouting for the institutions to come in because they want the price to go up. The institutions aren't going to come in if it's just going to fund, like, it's not just like drug dealing, it could be terrorism, could be anything. Like, who knows who's behind anything like that. So what I think the end game is, not just for Bitcoin, but for any crypto in general, I think we'll move to, well, we're already being more, we're becoming more immersive with like the internet and stuff. Like, I think 10, 15 years ago, no one's carrying a mobile phone around with them. Like, now we've got literally computers in our pockets. Me and you are talking. I'm in Bali, you're in the UK. We're talking, like, recording a podcast now. Like, what's it going to be like in 10 years' time? Well, I personally believe that everything that we've got, like wallet-wise, ID, all that sort of stuff is going to be on the blockchain. And it's just going to be tied together like it already is now. Like, my name's tied to my bank account, and I can't get money out of my bank account without my own name, my own password. that's going to be the same, but just on the blockchain. The thing is about that is there probably will be a layer of anonymity and security because no one wants like all their transactions open to the public. Like my mum or my dad or my friends or whoever don't want everyone to see every single transaction that you make in. Some stuff might be private to you. So what I think will happen is actual transactions from to and from your wallet will have a privacy layer, or you will have an alias. Like you'll tag your name to like I'll tag like say maybe Cryptoinsightuk to my personal name, and then I can make transactions from there. And it means like if I meet someone on like the online space and they're like, okay, hi, like are you a bot or are you a person? I can verify to them that I'm real, but I don't have to show them my actual identity. And I think that that's where we need to get to, because that way you can still track the transactions that I do, but you just don't need to know exactly who I am, what I'm doing. Like like if you're, I don't know, say you're embarrassed about whatever you might be embarrassed about. I don't know what people do or don't like, but let's say you're embarrassed about going clothes shopping. So you go clothes shopping and you're in the store and you make a purchase and you don't want people to see even like lingerie or just normal clothes, like like whatever it might be. You don't want people to see that. You can go in as a different alias, but it can still be tied to your wallet. So if someone actually needs to find it, like government on a government level, then they can see it. But like the general public can't see everything that you're doing, like who you might want your information to be sensitive from and like hidden
So
from.
like there's basically like hopefully anyway going to be some sort of middle ground. So that's what you're trying to say, because like you the points you've proved are completely valid and probably are a lot of reasons why people want it to be like decentralized and anonymous kind of thing. But there has to be some sort of middle ground where if worse comes to worse and someone needs to find out where a certain transaction came from because it caused this event, like a really bad event in the world, they can still find it. Whereas you can go on about your day-to-day activity like we are now, for example, without people knowing what we're purchasing, like our bank statement basically, or something like that.
And also like as much as everyone overlooks it, and also for like safety reasons as well, what happens if you make a purchase that's not good, or like you purchase from somebody, because everything's going to be more online. Why don't you purchase from somebody who rips you off? That's one of the big problems with crypto at the minute. Yeah, exactly. It's a big problem with crypto at the minute. It's one reason why mainstream adoption has taken so long is, and I know that only a tiny percentage are from bad actors, but they still happen. And because the blockchain is literally like you can trace everything. You shouldn't really have issues. It's only because everyone wants anonymity that issues occur. So I understand the need for anonymity. Like I'm a person just like everyone else, but like I think that if you want major adoption, these are the things that you need to get over. Like people, if you want price appreciation of your asset, if you want institutions involved, they need to have specific guidelines. And if they don't have those guidelines, you don't get the price appreciation. So you can sit on Bitcoin for the same price as you've sat on it forever if you want to, if that's what makes you like happy, but it's not what anyone wants, because everyone's in this space and as an investor, whatever they say, like even if they're here for the tech originally. So you just got to play by the rules because they're there for a reason, in my opinion.
Exactly. If you play by the rules, we'll get more institutions coming in like this. NYDIG just raised $720 million from institutions to buy Bitcoin. Again, it's not like breaking news, but it's again shows institutions are there sitting on the sidelines with a bag full of money, even despite market conditions now, and they're willing to invest ridiculous amounts of money like this and put it into the crypto sector. So that kind of sums up like those first 2 points. Like obviously a lot of people are against it, but do we need a certain aspect of that in order for things like this to happen and for your investment to actually pay off? So it's one of those, like, this is, I don't know too much about this story, but I just thought I'd include it in anyway. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about it.
I think it's New York Digital Investment Group. It's like might be Barry Silver, I'm not sure, but anyway, like it's a big amount of money. Like especially when we're in a market conditions like this, that can move a market 720 mil.
Have they bought it already, or have they purchased it already, or they just raised it?
And it's not just to buy Bitcoin; it was to buy crypto. But like Bitcoin Archive just always says to buy Bitcoin with every
Bitcoin,
every sale he puts out.
Of course. Yeah, nonetheless, like you said, the main point there is to stress is that they've raised this much money in the current market conditions. So imagine, like, once we pass all these legislations, what these institutions will be willing to put in when the markets, start reversing, or even if they do stay in, we are still in the bear at that point. The money's there on the sideline. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, for sure.
And then another quick story. These next two tabs are kind of linked. Nothing breaking. I'm sure everyone's been hearing about this whole Celsius. Obviously, we reported back in July, I think it was, that they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and their assets have been auctioned. And obviously we spoke a lot about where is it, the legend SBF here, who's the CEO of FTX, and they're front runners basically. I think it was them and Binance, I think, who were front runners to get the obviously get the assets of Celsius, but keeping an eye on that. But
well, I'm pretty sure that Ripple made an offer as well, so they definitely had their eye on it for a little while. Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if you see them come through with maybe some sort of late play to make an acquisition here.
I mean, whoever gets it's going to be laughing, because I'm sure whatever the assets are going to tremendously benefit anyone, especially an exchange like FTX kind of thing. So it might boost their stock, or boost their worth in terms of buying their assets. But another thing, this kind of made me laugh. I don't know why it made me laugh, because we've still got shady things happening like this. But obviously, the Celsius ex-CEO withdrew $10 million weeks before they paused withdrawals, and he's obviously resigned as CEO now, obviously. But it's just crazy that things obviously we see it in today's financial world. This isn't just throwing shade on crypto. We see stuff like this happening all the time, in terms of whether it be people in power selling stocks before they release a certain amount of news. So it's kind of the same thing, but being in the know-how. But it's a bit shady. It's not really good for crypto when something like this comes out, because I feel when a negative story comes out like this and it's to do with crypto, everyone kind of jumps on it straight away, and they're just kind of using it as fuel to kind of to fuel the fire basically on their hate towards crypto. But just thought I'd report on it. It's not good to see anyway.
No, it's not right, is it?
It's not right. Next few tabs actually relate to each other, because I'm sure we'll discuss quite a lot about it, because we do actually discuss the next couple of tabs, I think, in the newsletter anyway.
Yeah.
But we'll dive into it a little bit. But Biden administration urges Congress to pass laws to clear up cryptocurrency regulations. So we know the US are in progress, are passing certain bills and trying to get this legal framework up and running as quick as they can. Biden again is starting to urge them to hurry up. My thinking is, the reason I've put this before the next two tabs, which I'll get into, is that you can kind of see world leaders starting to kind of feel the urgency to kind of start getting things moving, specifically within crypto and just specifically within everything, because I feel like people are starting to get worried now. Little things like this, people might read this and think not too much of it. They just want to get the legislation sorted for crypto. But if you kind of trying to piece certain puzzles together, here we've got Eurogroup will meet with US Treasury Secretary Yellen on October 13th in Washington. We've got UN calls Fed and other central banks to half interest rates to increase, because obviously a lot of other countries are, getting affected by this massive rate hike that the Fed are imposing at the moment. And then you got the president kind of saying, look, let's hurry up on this crypto. Let's get this option out there. Is something big coming? Is there a big change coming? I'm not saying everything's going to switch to crypto overnight or anything like that, but I'm starting to read between the lines and kind of see certain things kind of come up here, because it's not a coincidence, in my opinion, that we're seeing a big push for regulation, and then we're seeing big powerhouses meeting to kind of discuss certain things about the world economy. Yeah. It's in my eyes. Obviously, I know we're biased because obviously we're heavily invested in crypto, but it's good. It's good for the crypto industry in general. But something needs to change anyway.
Obviously, I talked about it on Twitter this week. There was some weird terminology coming out of Credit Suisse to do with XRP, what the XRP community and obviously we're heavily invested into XRP. It's most of my portfolio, and I just think that it's almost like a fail-safe layer for crypto's almost a fail-safe layer. I feel we've talked about sometimes, it's especially with the dollar running so high, you're going to need a YOLO play, a Hail Mary play, and it could be crypto. As much as I try not to speculate on things like that, because we don't have proof of those things coming in. I try and talk about things that we have proven, but it could be crypto. I can't see many other Hail Marys that people can throw. What are you going to do? YOLO into gold? Not really a thing anymore. It is a thing. I don't want to say that. But it's not going to provide you the same returns as it might have in the past. It sort of holds its value. It's hard to move around, those sorts of things. So for a country on the brink of bankruptcy, or even a big company on the brink of bankruptcy, where you're going to try and YOLO your assets, and you're probably going to go like just like a retail investor has been, because everyone's been so low on cash. Some people go for an absolute YOLO play, like we've been seeing with even the stocks, like stock trends with like AMC and stuff. People like leveraging the life out of like options and YOLO into them, and I think that sort of trend's going to come to institutions. But I actually think that they might try and like play the volatility game, but also use the actual underlying technology and be like, oh, actually, I can move this money from here to here. It actually frees up this dormant capital for me. I can store my treasury in Bitcoin, ETH, XRP, and using ODL. I can actually move that from place to place. Okay, I get better tax laws over here while we've got no liquidity. Like we could do with that extra 10% of cash flow right now. Like all these sorts of things are going to start getting unlocked as soon as you see some regulation come in for crypto, in my opinion. You'll start seeing all sorts of different use cases that we, just like for the internet, when people first had the internet, it was only really for emails. Like now, look what we do on the internet. It's like insane. We'll see all sorts of use cases come out of crypto as soon as we start to get like a bit of a scope for what people do and don't allow for cryptocurrencies to do within each different state.
Yeah, I think you worded that a little bit better, to be fair. Obviously, it's not just going to obviously transfer to crypto or whatever and become the new financial system, but they can at least adopt and then, jump on their blockchain technology to help fix the problem that they're in right now. Because, you don't have to be an economic genius to realize the fact that the world economy as a whole is just under so much pressure right now. Like, what could potentially happen? Like, worst case scenario is definitely very much on the cards right now, which we're going to go into a couple more tabs which kind of start to hint towards that.
Yeah.
Obviously, everyone's been like thinking this is going to happen, but it's starting to come into fruition now. So adopting blockchain technology, which have use case like the XRPL, for example, it's going to help people cut costs and just move capital whenever they need to move it, and at least help them try and recover from this whole fiasco that's going on in the world right now.
Yeah, and that's how adoption starts in general on like a large scale. Like it could be like an overnight thing. I'm never going to rule that out, but I don't put a high percentage possibility on that. I put a high percentage on the fact that people are struggling and they need some sort of way to help like increase liquidity. So why would you not use something like the XRP ledger that can provide that? In the past, obviously, we had no legislation like you're talking about, but we also haven't had enough liquid capital on there or volume. And now the volume is coming through, and it's showing like the effectiveness of each different asset. I'm not just talking about XRP here. I think that Bitcoin's got a good place because it's highly liquid and has a big market cap, so it's easy to trade in and out of across borders. It's not as efficient as XRP, but like there's definitely pros and cons for each different crypto. For like a big institution, you can't plow everything onto the XRP ledger straight away because there's not enough like volume on there and liquidity in general. But over time, you may be able to do that.
Right, we're back. Sorry about that. Little bit of technical difficulty there, but yeah, I mean we've gone into this in the newsletter, so we're not going to speak about it too much here. But we're just trying to piece together in terms of what this could potentially mean for the world and other countries, how this can react. But we could literally sit here for hours speaking about these next two tabs. So we'll just skip that for now. But I'm sure Will's covered it on his TikToks and socials anyway. But
yeah, I've gone massively into depth on these two topics and tying it into everything that's going on in terms of like interest rates, inflation, what's happening with Credit Suisse, Deutsche Bank, all these sorts of things in the first section of our newsletter this week. I've written about it for about 7 pages, so we'll leave that to the newsletter, I think.
We'll leave it for the newsletter, but we will cover obviously Credit Suisse as well, because I do just want to obviously cover it as well, because obviously it's a weekly roundup. We need to go over it anyway. But so for those of you who don't know, I'm sure everyone who's involved in crypto or follows like economic news, what's been going on with Credit Suisse and Deutsche Bank in terms of a potential collapse. We've seen it in 2008 when the Lehman Brothers here. Obviously, this is a really good thread, guys, so check it out. I'll quickly go over it now anyway, but it says here $600 billion, is what the Lehman Brothers held in assets, and when you combine Credit Suisse and Deutsche Bank, it's 2,800 billion. So it's 4.6 more. So it just it highlights the fact where we are right now, and like if this does happen, if these two banks do collapse, what it could potentially mean. So it all kind of stem from this like kind of charts, the CDSs, which stand for
Credit default
I've
swaps.
forgotten. Yeah, credit default swaps here. It goes about it here. So a CDS is essentially an insurance purchased against a potential default. So am I right by saying it's the likelihood of them defaulting on their well, insure everything, like defaulting on?
Yeah, they're just buying swaps in the fact that like if they default on any of their credit, basically, they're buying
Yeah.
like they're buying insurance on the fact that like in this situation, Credit Suisse might not be able to pay back the loans or the interest on the loans or the assets that they hold. So obviously each bank's leveraged to each other. They're trying to buy insurance
So
to stop them going bankrupt to stop their own bank going bankrupt if they can't pay back on their loans that they're leveraged on. It's so complicated.
yeah, it's a good, really good thread. Anyway, guys, check it out if you got time to give it a
Yeah,
quick read.
I
But
actually I break down CDSs quite heavily in the newsletter. To be fair, this week.
there you go. Maybe you should guys sign up for the newsletter.
And that's what you should do.
Essentially, we reached like critical levels anyway, regardless. The CDSs are, and in fact, this next tweet kind of says that it went up 440 basis points in a single day, reached like high levels in 2008. I think it's surpassing the 2008 financial crisis. So it's getting a bit shaky over there at Credit Suisse and Deutsche Bank at the moment. We're still not really heard too much more in terms of follow up about it. But regardless, this is not good news. This really isn't good news for everyone, because like Will said, everyone's kind of leveraged against each other. So if one, let alone one bank, if a couple banks fail, you best believe it's going to have a massive domino effect on other banks, other institutions, like investors, everyone. Everyone's kind of messed up if this does happen. So there's a potential opportunity for an investment in the stocks if you've got a big set of balls on you, but then you also have to realise this could actually happen and this could obviously will crash. But I think that the stocks have taken a massive tumble. I think if you look at, I don't think I've got it on my watch list, but we'll add it at the end. If you look at the chart on the monthly, it's just literally like an absolute downward spiral since the start of the year anyway. So it's not looking good. It's not looking good over there.
It's not looking good.
But hopefully, touch wood, that doesn't collapse and the financial system obviously don't collapse. But we'll move on to some XRP news and SEC. Obviously, we've had all the big commotion going on over the past few weeks, kind of died down a little bit. But what came out of this week is obviously, and last week I think it was Iremit and TapJets basically wanted to file amicus briefs, and now the SEC have appealed that, and then Ripple came back and slammed the SEC with this quote, and it said, if the SEC cannot evaluate the veracity of such claims, then it had no business bringing this litigation in the first place. And again, we're biased. I know we're biased, but it's spot on, isn't it? If they can't take an amicus brief from these two XRPO like users, they didn't have any right bringing it up in the first place in terms of like the whole thing. So I like that the Ripple standing ground on that, and they've kind of hit them with like a bit of a harsh quote, but it's true as well, I guess. Just things like this need to be said. Like the SEC are they're taking a mick once again.
Yeah.
They're just appealing, delaying again, and it's good to see Ripple kind of put their foot down in terms of saying it how it is, basically.
If you've got a strong case for whatever it might be, it doesn't really matter what the opposing side is saying because your case is strong. You should let them say exactly however much and whatever they want, because it's not going to affect your case because you already know you've got a strong case. If you've got to try and block the opposition from doing or saying something, your case probably isn't strong.
What are we waiting for now in terms of the next step on this case? Is there a certain date we're waiting for something to be brief to be submitted, or are we just waiting for the judge to make a decision on something? Or
well, these amicus briefs, there's not really a date for either of those yet, but what we are waiting for is the summary judgment filings to come through, and I think that the last filing on that is December the 20th, but in and before that we could see filings in and around that sort of time. So
it's just a bit of a waiting game now, but I guess it is heating up. End of this year is going to be really interesting for this case, obviously.
Yeah. So basically, what's happened is, Ripple and the SEC have filed their summary judgment briefs.
Yeah.
And we're waiting for both of the parties to oppose each other's brief, and then replies to both those oppositions, and that takes us to the 20th of December, I think. If I'm correct.
So, and obviously in that time we could see a settlement, because obviously we still they appealed against the hidden mini emails again, obviously, and that's gone to second circuit now, isn't it? So we're still waiting for that as well. Decisions to be made on that.
I don't know. I'm not seeing I didn't see that they appealed Judge Torres' decision.
Oh, I thought I read that somewhere. I could be wrong. I could be very wrong there, but
I haven't seen that. So, but I also may have not seen it. So we'll have to confirm that for you guys. If you know, let us know in the comments. That'd be decent. Thank you.
no. But I think that's the news wrapped up for the week. Like I said, apologies. Been away, so I've not been in the loop of everything this week. But we'll head into some price action here because XRP actually has had a bit of a couple of interesting days. Whilst Bitcoin stayed relatively flat over the past couple of days, battling its MAs, it's not stopped XRP. It's breaking out of this like kind of downward. I'll post it on Twitter. I don't think I'm gonna be able to find it now in time, but it's breaking out of this like little flag it formed. Let's see if we can find it. Here it is. It's nice. Obviously, right now we're sitting above their breakout target, 66 cents. Obviously, it does depend on what happens with Bitcoin, but as I've been writing in the newsletter this week as well, because I discussed a couple of altcoins, and ultimately the whole market is still waiting for Bitcoin to make its next move. I'm relatively bullish, obviously, on Bitcoin in the really short term. Anyway, obviously you can see this RSI come back down and bounce off the SMA, but realistically, as I said in the newsletter, I can see Bitcoin retracing back up to the 25k mark, which should give enough fuel for a lot of altcoins to make their next leg up. And if we do see that for XRP, obviously we just broke out of this here. Technical target is 66 cents, which comes into that resistance right there. So that's what I'm looking for in terms of XRP and on their charts. Obviously we'll have to wait and see because anything can happen here. We've got the RSI battling its own SMA here.
Yeah, that's the only like negatives for me is like the RSIs look a little, and like a couple of other indicators look a bit like still overcooked for XRP. But I personally do think we're looking at a bit of a breakout from this position. As long as we get the daily closes and the weekly closes where we are, like yeah, the MACD looks a bit overcooked, the RSI looks a bit overcooked on the daily, but on the weekly they look all right. And as long as we get this weekly close where we are as well, it looks looking pretty nice, to be honest. We've got that close back. Yeah, exactly.
200 MA as well.
And I was looking in the past, like where that 200 MA may come in, and every time it's like closed above that, we are like on for a rally essentially.
Yeah, I guess it closed like here.
Yeah.
It doesn't go back that far enough, but I don't know. It's hard to keep saying like look at the indicator like you said there on the weekly. They do look a lot better on the weekly.
Yeah.
And that's what I try and look at. To be fair, like I try not to get bogged down in terms of like a daily too much or any of the hours because we're not day traders, but.
Well, even technically on the daily, like if you look back to the places when we've had rallies, it's spent a lot of time over 80, 70, 80 strength on the RSI. So if we go back to like even, let's say 2020 March, like 2020 when it was rallying, and even before that, when you go to 2017, is it March of 2020? Is it 20 or is it 21? No, 21. Sorry, March of 21. If we keep going. Yeah, like there. Yeah, there. So when it's rallying, like hitting its highs of like 190, look, it's actually above the overbought area for quite a while. Probably there for like 2 weeks, maybe.
It just consolidates and then boom.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I expect the move to look like when we see a big explosive move, not just for XRP, even for Bitcoin, because we're kind of like in this stage now sideways. Everyone's a bit fearful. It's just coiling up and then boom. That's what people need to remember is that when it moves, it will move and it will move for like a few weeks and then it will start retracing / consolidating again. But at the moment, in my eyes, we're just waiting really. I think waiting for a move to happen because I've never seen Bitcoin like that. It's just been trading in this range for since June now.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and like I watched a really interesting podcast with Arthur Hayes and Raoul Powell the other day. And Arthur Hayes is a day trader, and he just trades. He doesn't really care like what he trades. He just trades it up or down. And he says that his opinion on Bitcoin at the minute is it could make a slightly lower low, but he doesn't think it will. That's not his base case, but he thinks it's a possibility. But his base case is that anyone who wants to sell Bitcoin at this point has already sold. They sold it back in June. So who's going to sell from now? Only people are going to come in and buy. It's basically what he says. With everything that's going on around the world, he thinks people will be net buyers, not net sellers. So he is long on it like at the minute. So, and I think that makes a great point, and that's kind of the same like of what I've been saying. It's just like no matter what people say out in the markets, you need to understand where you're going to take entries, and you need to also understand what's good in terms of risk to reward, in terms of when to take an entry. I'm not saying that it's now, I'm not saying that it's not, but I personally have taken all my positions now because I can ride out lower percentages, but I don't want to miss a push up to the upside. So that's essentially where we are with it.
Exactly. We've been saying that for weeks, and that is our mentality. We both share that as well. So DCA, and obviously we've been speaking about it for God knows how long. That's the advice I give to my family who are looking to invest into crypto. I give to my friends as well. That's what I say. Obviously there is, like we said before, there's scope to go down. Of course there is, but do you really want to miss 20k when we have a long-term projection? People are talking about a 200k Bitcoin. That's a 10x from here. So is it, in the grand scheme of things, if you really are a smart investor, you'd be doing what we're doing right now. Not saying we're smart, but you'd be DCAing / building your positions at these low prices, because if you really believe in your project that you're investing in, which we do, you believe it's going to go to your price predictions, which we have for obviously XRP. But obviously it's the same for Bitcoin. Obviously I personally don't hold any Bitcoin or ETH or anything like that, but not that I'm opposed to it, but you've got to get your own price targets, your own entry point sorted, because you don't want to just be reacting when the market reacts, if that makes sense. The market goes, oh no, I should probably get in now because it's not going to come down again. You need to already have that planned, like we've said, week in, week out. But yeah.
Don't FOMO green candles.
Don't FOMO green candles. That is the worst. That's the best advice. Another bit of advice we can give you, because it never ends well. Look at any chart. Never FOMO into green candles, and don't get too fearful when you see red as well.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
You want to be. Do you know what I mean? Like when we're down there, when we're down there and it keeps going down, you're thinking, oh no, it's going to keep going down. You need to have your targets where you're going to DCA in that 20k, 18k, 12k, whatever it goes down to in the end. You need to have that ready. But yeah. Nothing, like I said, nothing's really happening. We're still in the sideways motion. DXY still being the DXY, and it's absolutely flying. Whether this comes down now, again, everything's just kind of flat, I think, at the moment. Everyone's just waiting for something to make its move, something to crash, something to pop, and then we'll just go from there. But like you said, me and you personally, both we've made our positions right now, so I'm ready for the move. Whether it be down, whether it be up, I'm ready for it.
It's up, and I'm ready for it too. Not financial advice.
Not financial advice.
But yeah, I think that's a wrap. We can leave it on that note, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a wrap, guys. That's week 26, and we'll see you next week for week 27.
Peace up, peace out. Down, as Usher would say.